Homelessness 2.0, day 48. Cooking the remainder of my chicken, throwing in some, that is chicken, butter, bacon fat, and this is right here, this right here is turkey drippings from a little bit ago. They were frozen, so or not frozen, they're refrigerated, so maybe they'll be good, maybe they'll be bad, I don't know. Yet another video that's done late at night. I want to say it's not nearly as late as the last couple. It is now just about 8:20-ish. This beer is interesting. About $3.50 a pop because it was like $13 and some change for each. But I'm gonna let those fats and whatnot melt down, and then I'm gonna just kind of like heat up the chicken, and then it's gonna be whatever. Bacon is gonna be, because I'm gonna cook up all the chicken, and then I'm gonna cook up all the bacon, and once at some point I'm gonna use this one can too that I went to the store and got. Not today, but within the next couple of days. And then those meats are going to be the last of the meats. I'll have all the meats. I'll be like Arby's. We have the meats. I don't know why I decided to throw that out there. Shut up, brand. Put the bacon, all the drippings and stuff inside that when the time comes. And then, because it's about 2 weeks before it's time to get out of here. It's 18th. The 31st is the last day, but it's literally like get up and get the hell out kind of day. Not get up and leave whenever you feel like it kind of day. Get out by 11 a.m. So I got to do that, which means I literally have just 2 weeks and then that day to get the hell out. So that means that I've got to get whatever I've got in here, I've got to start whittling it all down, buy whatever comes to mind when it comes to, whether it's necessities or what have you. But basically whatever food stuff in one capacity or another is disposable. And then, who knows what's next? Like I said, haven't done it yet. I might as well do it after this, I guess, if I remember, but gonna set up the next lesson. And then, I'm going to set up the lesson, and then I'm going to set up, because again, with the driving thing, like, my driving is better than I thought it was, which is good. It's just getting accustomed to the car was more of a, and like specific things like, looking and, over your shoulder and shit. Like, I stopped doing that after I was driving probably for less than a year. I don't know. It's not a normal behavior for me to look constantly. It's like, yeah, I'm going to look, I'm going to figure out certain things, but it's harder for me, and this is, again, sort of the paradox of having this experience, is like, it's harder for me to want to, or have a need, to look over my shoulder that much, because I did everything that I could to be a safe and defensive driver throughout my driving, to then make it to where I didn't have to do stuff like that. And obviously, you can be blindsided in one way or another, but I'd like to say that I'm pretty observant overall. I try to be, actively. This is going to be ended up more of a braise than a fry, but that's whatever. The whole point was to cook stuff and sort of make it a little bit more homogeneous and more fat infused, if you will. And I even threw in 2 tablespoons of butter because there was already butter in it. Blah, 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 blah. Boil off whatever water's in there. But yeah, so once those, if I could, it's not likely to happen this week or even next week, to be honest, but we'll see what happens. But with that confidence and with the knowledge that, yes, I can do the thing, I can do driving, I will make an attempt to try and get the license done by the end of the month. Got 2 weeks left. And the last 2 weeks always go by faster than the first 2 weeks. So I'll try that. I'm still not looking for any housing or anything because I don't see myself. I don't know how I'd be able to find any without being able to drive a car around this place. Like it doesn't. I don't know of anybody that has done it any other way really successfully. I mean, I've done it before in the past with Craigslist, but that route does not seem to be as, not just not as reliable, but like it seems to be unreliable now. It doesn't have any level of reliability that I can find myself even thinking that there's a possibility that I'll get a place. Whereas before, yeah, it seemed like it was possible. I could still look and try not to disappoint myself. But we'll see. But the driving thing, I think, is going to end up being... Again, I think it's going to end up being the more important thing in the end. Again, I was walking down the street earlier, went to the store, got the beers, got some Coke and a couple ice creams because I was like, I don't want to go to the grocery store right now. I don't want to have to walk the whole way or wait for the bus and all that crap. I'll just go to the corner store, get a couple of things, all reasonably priced. I mean, not the best price, but still reasonable for, the fact that it's a corner store. Still more expensive than it needs to be, but it's not so overpriced that it's just like I don't have buyer's remorse from it. So finding a place is going to be harder without a car. I need to get a car. I don't want to have to drive a car. There were so many cars on the road. Parked on the road. Not just out here, but like everywhere. Everywhere there's so much street parking. It's ridiculous how much street parking there is in the city. And it's no wonder why there's so much traffic, because so many of the roads are blocked by cars that are just sitting there parked. Like one of the things that I wish that'll happen sometime in the future, and I used this big old can of beans and propping my arm up on it. One of the things that I hope happens in the future is that more and more autonomous cars happen, and that instead of having sort of your own personal car, obviously it's not going to be cheap for the average person, because why would corporations care about what your price is? They would want to make as much money as possible on you, and they do. That's the way that our country works. But if it were possible, because I see this happening more than I do better public transit, and that's the sad part, whereby you effectively have like a subscription to a car rental service, but you can get picked up and dropped off at any time, and so you can go to the store and get stuff. And I said this years ago, back when I used to still talk, I used to spend time on Slashdot. Slashdot is a pre-social media forum. That's where the RTF RTFA, read the fucking article, came from. That's what my understanding is that Slashdot is where that initialism came from. I used to spend time there on that forum as well. And then when they got bought out, I believe it was by Dig, is when I went over to Reddit. And then Reddit got bought out, and then I moved over more or less to Imgur. Now Imgur's getting bought out, and so I'm kind of flipping between the two of them right now, between Reddit and Imgur, and it's just social media, in my opinion, is going to shit. I mean, it's been in a lot of ways shit for us for a while, but it feels like to me at this point that there isn't much recourse. It kind of feels like it's a dying thing, in that not only is it bad, but on top of it, there doesn't seem to be any good places for it anymore either. Which may be a good thing in the end. I don't know. We'll see. But anyway. There's too many cars on the road. We have bad public transit. And I think that it would probably end up being better that we had automated, at least because I don't think public transit's really going to get any better, is that we would end up having, car subscription services where you have automated vehicles come pick you up, kind of like how Uber works, but without an actual driver. Because actual drivers, actual humans, are worse drivers. Plain and simple. And in general, and I consider myself one of those, like, I would say that I'm a decent driver, but I'm still worse than an automated system. And the reasoning for that is because no matter how much time I spend on the road, I can't transfer the information that I've learned and can adapt with hundreds or thousands or hundreds of thousands of other cars virtually instantly, to which they have all done their own thing and thus transmit that data over to me and so on and so on. So you get this huge web of information that cars can then effectively learn through each other and adapt as needed. So in a really icy area, a car will learn how to adapt to an icy area, but can then transmit that information over a car that never experiences ice once. But then let's say there's a fluke ice storm. Those cars know how to do it. Straight up, just they know how to do it because that information has been there before. And so that algorithm that's in their car brain, if you want to call it, that network, that internet of car brains, they'll just know. They'll know the time that one car first did it. Even if it's, let's say, 10 years later. Now, obviously, this depends on, how well data storage is and all that good shit. But still, the average person, even in icy areas, they're not driving in icy areas every single day of the week. But if you think about it, automated cars under effectively an internet brain are always driving under icy conditions. Because it's as if it just happened, no matter how long ago it happened. Whereas with humans, we have to kind of like get back into it, as it were. Just like I'm trying to get back into driving. Like, I'm still good enough, but I'm not good enough to pass the test. And we need fewer humans driving overall, in general. Because it's safer that way. And one of the things that I don't understand why, there are so many people who are just in, like, just pure opposition to making things safer. Like, look at that situation in Texas where I think it's a young girl who, like, is standing outside of what looks like a Hummer or some shit. She's up on, up out of the sunroof, and then pulls a fucking gun on a bus full of fucking kids. Now you're like, how does that have to do with anything driving related? It's not. It's gun related. It's talking about being safer. If we had fewer guns overall, let's just say we just cut our guns into a third. The chances of that happening are now approximately, but not necessarily truthfully, but approximately 1/3. Or not cut it by 1/3, cut it down to 1/3, and now you have it 1/3, whatever. You know what I mean? When you reduce guns, you reduce the possibility of gun violence of any kind. And gun violence of any kind is something that we can mitigate and make things safer. Yet people seem to want more. When despite the fact that most people who use guns kill themselves with them. How funny is that? Yeah, we're going to put more guns into more people's hands because the highest rate of gun deaths are suicides. And then there are people who are like, well, that's not blah, blah, blah. That's one problem among many. Because guns are efficient at killing. Because that's what they're built for. That is their purpose. That is their only and sole designated purpose, is to kill. That's why if you ever take a gun class, especially a gun safety class, they're going to straight up tell you, don't point your gun at anything unless you intend to destroy it, unless you intend to kill it. Because that's the point of it. So reduce the number of guns. We have fewer of them that can then be pointed at things. That can then be loaded in a desk and then have a 3-year-old or a 6-year-old or a 9-year-old or a 12-year-old fucking pull it and kill themselves. Or their friend or a family member. Or take it to a school and shoot up a school. We can make the world safer by reducing the killing machines that exist in it. And yet there are people out there who don't give a fuck. They don't. Whatever argument they come up with, it doesn't matter. They don't give a fuck about the overall safety of everyone. They only care about either A, their own personal safety, B, the safety specifically of their own family and or friends or loved ones or whatever. And then that's it. They don't care about anybody else. They don't care about the rest of the fucking country. And that makes me fucking sick to want to live here. Like, I don't want to live here. But I have to because I'm fucking poor, technically. And that wasn't even my intent to talk about. I don't know what the fuck I was going to talk about today. That wasn't my intent. But you know what? Why does it matter? Does it? Does it fucking matter? I don't know. Have fun.